Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Me? Well, I'd forgotten what fun it is to deal with America. Obviously, in the run-up to ConExpo, we are speaking to a lot of US brands, dealers, organizations, and exhibitors. But the time difference is proving to be a nightmare. I've got a Zoom call booked for 6:45 tonight, which is more than 12 hours after I emerged from my bed this morning. And then I've got another one 3 hours after that, which is by which time I'll be way past my best. However, that apparently is the price you pay for transatlantic fame. If only. I think an afternoon power nap may be required. And I can't even catch up with a line on Saturday because the Saturday Social Show is back. And this episode is going to be a bit different. As regular viewers will know, I normally just pitch up a bit bleary-eyed and we see where the conversation leads us. But this Saturday, we will have an agenda. Sort of. I'd like to offer up the impending end of grandfather rights as our opening and quite possibly closing topic for discussion. If that sounds like something you could get behind, I'll see you at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. Wherever you're watching this, so Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, you take your, or Twitter even, you take your pick. On that subject, there are lots of people just arrived in the chat, but I wanted to say a very, very quick good morning to one man in particular. There he is. Mick Norton. Good morning, Mick. I'm just working up something on this whole end of grandfather rights, reading up what Construction Index had to say about the subject, and I saw that you were mentioned in dispatches. So congratulations on that, but more importantly, well done for flying the flag. It's an important conversation that needs to be had, and I'm glad to see you're having it. Now, I think we need to move on a little bit, don't we? Let me get back to the right part of the show. And this is where I say, now, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. It is Thursday, the 26th of January. I almost said February, which would have been my birthday. Easily confused, man of my age. As that remarkably persistent guy just said, welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, we're going to be bringing you some awesome French demolition action. We'll be checking out an American excavator modification that has given a Komatsu excavator some much-needed additional reach, and we'll be looking at how yet another company is harnessing technology to its competitive advantage. And if that weren't enough, we'll also be taking a look at Skyview, Liebherr's latest contribution to site safety. And before I press on, I want to say a very quick good morning to Jeremy Bashaw. Many thanks indeed for joining us, Jeremy. Good of you to be here. I don't have a trigger to say that, but I do have a trigger for this guy. Good morning, Dan. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now, we're going to get to all of that content in just a second. But first, why don't we see who among the rich and the shameless will be celebrating a birthday on this day of days. Happy birthday! And it's many happy returns to General Douglas MacArthur and to the man dubbed the Prime Minister of the Underworld. No, not Rishi Sunak. That's mobster Frank Costello. Happy birthday also to screen idol Paul Newman, star of one of my favourite films, Cool Hand Luke. Actor Scott Glenn, guitar hero Eddie Van Halen, sadly no longer with us. Singer Anita Baker, chat show host Ellen DeGeneres, and to the half of Wham that wasn't George Michael, Mr. Andrew Ridgeley. Many happy returns to them, one and all. And we're going to kick off today with a quick jaunt to the land of the beret and the baguette, of wine, frog's legs and smelly cheese. And as it turns out, France is also the land of some pretty impressive demolition too. Well, sacre bleu and mon dieu, and quite possibly bonnet de douche. That was très magnifique or something like that. It's probably a British thing. Someone says high reach excavator conversion, and I immediately think of the fine folks at Craic excavators up in Ipswich. But Craic is not alone in its ability to take a regular excavator and turn it into a towering giant. Have to say that's a very smart conversion. I'd love the opportunity to do something with the fine folks at Galen. So, Galen folks, if you're watching this, hit me up, would you? We were speaking just yesterday, if you remember, about how an increasing number of companies are harnessing technologies such as GPS, driver assist, and a variety of tilt rotators and attachments, all to gain a competitive advantage. Well, here's another one.
We used to call them the cowboy days. You used to just get in and make it happen and make it work. 5 years ago, that's all you had to go off of was simply your paper design, get grounded, try to find out where your property corners are. A lot of it was trial and error, and the drain fields were very minimalized, so you were able just to kind of come in and just make it happen.
We would have to use string lines and long tapes, and it took 2 to 3 guys to do.
At the time, it was very efficient, but with technologies these days, not the case anymore. These days, it's a whole lot more productive.
On this job site, we are using the LN150 to do our measurements and lay out our tank holes in our drain field.
You can show up, start beeping some property corners, and you're able to zone in a whole lot quicker and a whole lot faster.
And from that point, I swap over to the machine. Having the tablet in the cab allows me to see my depths and to get grade first time.
The operator can literally, in his machine, control his depths, which is going to follow in the lines of the engineers and the designers and what they're speccing out, and allows them to be a little bit more grounded versus having a guy on the ground next to him and telling them what to do.
I'm able to see it on the screen, dig the trenches by myself. I don't need a guy on the grade rod, so they can stay busy on other tasks on the job site.
The majority of the work now can be done with one guy with the new technology. The amount of time from a production standpoint, doing twice the work just as fast, you can able to cut your costs down, which allows you to get more production coming in. You got 2 guys on the job site, you can do twice the amount of work in the same time.
We went out to do, and I started laying it out and realized that the design was not correct.
The crew would have been shut down. They would have required a supervisor to go out like myself, go review the information, call the designer, get everybody on the same page, and realistically require a site visit to be able to figure out how we're going to accomplish it.
I was able to mark everything, and we were able to send it over to the designer.
And he was able to approve them over the phone, real time, on the job site, and we're able to keep moving forward. I think it will change the hiring experience. It will bring different individuals into the industry. We've been able to take an individual who has never used anything like this before. He was able to pick up on it immediately, out into the field, and it gives somebody the confidence to go out and be able to accurately install something, not worried about digging too deep or misplacing something because of simple measurements. This pinpoints everything for you, and within the first 2-3 days of using it, he was laying out drain fields and septic systems all day long. The good old quote, if you don't get with the times, they're going to leave you behind. But at one given point in time, everybody's going to need this technology.
That's quite timely. I'm actually scheduled to speak to the fine folks at Topcon at some ungodly hour tonight, as we're hoping to do something with them during the ConExpo show. I'll keep you posted, but in the meantime, we're going to be staying in America right after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
It is an area of Florida beloved of right-wing Americans and expat Brits seeking the sunshine, Daytona Beach. But those Brits and Trump supporters now have one less place in which to stay, as the famous Treasure Island Hotel is no more. Sea views, sunshine and palm trees. You'd think that would be an ideal place to do a bit of demolition, wouldn't you? Apparently not. Ken Hatcher says, I've been to Daytona Beach. Not the best place. The skyline just improved. I'll give him that. Let's get on with the show I need to get back to. Now, those fine folks at Liebherr have reaffirmed their commitment to site safety with a massive upgrade of their Skyview 360 system, which now offers an overview of the entire area around a machine to identify potential hazards and also encroaching pedestrians as well. And this is what the upgrade looks like. So, just to be clear, Liebherr can capture a high definition image using cameras mounted on a piece of mobile equipment. Yet the images captured by CCTV seeking to identify criminals look like they were shot on a potato. Go figure.
Sorry to interrupt the guy with the funny glasses, but if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as it helps our channel. Or, better still, share this video with a friend or a colleague. Thank you. Right, back to Beardy.
Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll see you on the other side of this for the Craic. We'll go back to our original theme tune today, I think. Lovely. I have missed that. Good morning, everyone. How are we all doing? And go right the way back to the very beginning of the chat. And I'm going to try and steer clear of all talk of grandfather rights at the moment, because I'm working on a video. It will be on proper release, but I plan to use it on Saturday. So I'm trying to keep my powder dry and all of that. We'll see if I manage to pull it off. First in the chat this morning was Steve Williamson. Good morning, Steve. Steve very kindly sent me a video that he shot out on site. Reckons it's not as good as Fred's, as I've just sent him a message saying Fred's a terrible operator. So you can rest assured you're in kind of good company. Gary Muirhead is here as well. Good morning, Gary. Thank you very much indeed for being here. We appreciate your presence pretty much every day, I would say, aside from your jaunt to New York last year. Mick Norton, my current hero, is in the house. Mick, who is fighting the good fight. I just wish there was about another 500 Mick Nortons in the world fighting the good fight against, well, a number of things. Drugs and alcohol abuse on site, but more specifically at the moment, all things related to the loss of grandfather rights. As I've already mentioned, we will be here on Saturday for the long-awaited return of the Saturday Social Show, and the main topic of conversation, it will meander, I guarantee it, but the main topic of conversation, it will be the loss of grandfather rights, which is going to take place, I think it's June next year, so we are on the countdown. Nick Drew is in the house. Morning, Nick. Good of you to join us. How was the trip out yesterday? Don't know where you went. I know you were on Earth Movers duty, but thank you very much indeed for being here. Jeremy Basher is here as well. Morning, Jeremy. Morning, everyone. How are we doing? I can't speak for the entire audience, but I can certainly tell you I'm feeling pretty damn chipper as it happens. Been a good couple of days. I think I'm starting to get the Las Vegas fever. Ken Hatter is here as well. Usual mixed bag of Welsh weather. But good morning, Ken. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Peter Ferguson, who changes his greeting every single morning. Good day, men and machines, ladies and operatives. still prefer chaps and chapettes, if I'm being completely honest. Thank you very much indeed for being here, Peter. Let's have a look. Who else have we got? Dan Cullen's just joined us. Dan is one busy bee. He is running a bunch of WhatsApp groups trying to find people work, and he is currently being inundated, which I think speaks volumes for the state of the construction nation at the moment. Let's have a look. Yeah, my question of the day, very simple one. I thought, if you could add one thing to your machine, what would it be? I was expecting suggestions of, a naked Keira Knightley or something like that. Apparently that's just me. Ken Hatchett has come back, and his suggestion is vibration-free rubber tracks. Yes, wouldn't we all like a bit less vibration in our lives? Slight aside, Steve Williamson, obviously admiring the demolition work from Melchior over in France. If I had to pick a job that doesn't involve tilt rotators, demolition would be an awesome job. I do like a challenge. And I think you would find demolition quite challenging. You're a damn fine operator, though. I'm sure you'd quickly get the hang of it. Jim Turner's here as well. Morning, Jim. Thank you very much indeed for being here. How was the assortment of music this morning? I hope it was to your taste. Dan Cullen has come back on our question of the day, when I can get the damn thing to work. Extra flashing lights on the counterweight and lights. Beacon and cab is useless. Useless as a bag of cats. Is that an expression? I don't know. Steve Williamson, I think anybody that drives a track machine will be applauding you loudly right about now, Steve. Self-cleaning undercarriage. Isn't it about time that had been invented? And I don't mean slopey bits of undercarriage that allow some bits of debris to fall off. I'm talking about something where there is actually a system that keeps the damn things clean. And again, going back to the demolition side of things, I know AR Demolition and I think Armac as well have got these protectors on the tracks, or above the tracks actually, to stop rebar getting wound around the undercarriage. That's what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you finish work, you press a button, you get out of the cab, and lo, your undercarriage, your tracks are spotlessly clean. You can eat your dinner off them. Steve, if you do manage to invent that, I think you'll be a very rich man. We're going back to all things TopCon here. Steve, as rightly said, absolutely moving times. It's 2023 and technology is growing fast. It is the unstoppable tide of progress, and I think those that are against technology will find themselves left on the high of the the hard shoulder of the industry. It's coming, whether we like it or not. TopCon's point about new technology being the catalyst for bringing new, different people into the industry makes a lot of sense. It really does. I had a long chat yesterday, and it was a precursor to a podcast that we have planned. I was speaking to a lady who works for a company that makes wearable devices, so wrist, chest, hard hat, wearable devices to alert equipment operators that you are in close proximity. And I was planning to do the podcast, and I was planning to do it for our Tech Foresights show, based around the technology. But within 5 minutes of speaking to her, I've decided to ditch that and to do something completely different. Because the lady in question is actually both a teacher and a psychologist. And she was talking about some of the issues facing the adoption of technology. Specifically wearables. And there is this resistance, apparently, that we have as an industry that suggests that we believe Big Brother will be watching us, as if that's not the case. If you carry one of those, Big Brother is watching you, so why would a wearable device that might actually keep you or one of your colleagues safe, why would that be such an issue? That one will be coming down the line very, very soon. I've had a message from her this morning. I need to go back to suggest some dates. Just as soon as we can get that one in the can, we will be bringing that to you. And it's going to be a good one. It was a really interesting chat yesterday. We're back at Daytona Beach. I've been to Daytona Beach, not the best place. Never wanted to go to Florida. If I wanted to go to, if I go to America, I want to go where there are Americans, not Brits every 500 yards. So no, Florida has been off the map so far. Gary Muirhead says, I hope they've got plenty of champagne to sit there and watch it come down. My guess is they only had the champagne for the opening, Gary. They should probably well know. Yeah, they probably switched to Iron Brew immediately after that. Liebherr need to make CCTV cameras. It's a thought, isn't it? Haven't seen Gary Major in the chat, but fantastic to see you back. Morning all, Gary Major arriving late. Just cooked that superb Liebherr upgrade, excellent. But what else would you expect? You're right. What else would you expect from Liebherr apart from excellence? That's what Liebherr do. They do things well. That's why they're Liebherr. Gary Muirhead, man after my own heart, although mine would actually probably be a tease maid. Anyone remember tease maids? They were terrible. Question of the day, what would you like to have in the cab of your machine? And Gary Muirhead has suggested an in-cab coffee machine. It's a good, as I say, very good idea. I just mentioned tease maids for the younger members of the audience, and there are a few. You used to be able to buy a device. They may still exist, I don't know, but they used to be able to buy a device that was part kettle, part teapot, and part alarm clock. Never had one in my house, but they were a regular addition to coastal B&B's, bed and breakfast. And a tease made, you would set the alarm, and at the appropriate time the alarm would go off to alert you to the fact that it was time to get your rear end out of bed. And at the same time the kettle would boil, it would pour water on a tea bag, and literally as you're opening your eyes, there you are, you've got a fresh cup of splosh, as it is called in this house. Fantastic. It tasted awful. It always tasted awful. Mainly, I think, because it was usually accompanied by long life milk. Why? Just why? Is it really that hard to have? Maybe it is, I don't know. So, yes, there we are. A microwave. Now there's a thought. Yeah, you do want your lunchtime pasty nice and warm, don't you? Why don't we go the whole hog and have a hob in there? Do a bit of a stir fry while you're about it. Or, Ken Hatcher, I'm looking at you right now. How about a nice little pizza oven? Particularly for Fridays. Just a thought. I said I wasn't going to talk about grandfather rights, and I'm not going to talk about it at any length. But I'm not going to... I could share the page, actually, if I can find it. Let me have a look. Share screen, and there we are. It's that one I'm after. So there's a bit in here. Yes, you are seeing that. I can't highlight it, unfortunately, because I don't have the technology. But there is a bit in here. This is talking about the fact that it's been confirmed that grandfather rights are most definitely going away. Let me just be absolutely clear. I want to make sure I get my dates right. 30th of June 2024. Just to be absolutely clear, here we go. The Construction Skills Certificate Scheme, that's CSCS, will cease renewing industry accreditation cards from 30th of June 2024. In addition, cards issued from the 1st of January 2020 will expire on the 31st of December 2024, will not be renewed. Those seeking to renew their CSCS cards will have to reapply for new cards in 2024 and demonstrate their credentials by acquiring an appropriate national vocational qualification, which is obviously an NVQ, or an SNVQ, a Scottish National Vocational Qualification, if you're up in Scotland. You don't have to go back to school, but you will be assessed by an independent assessor for a period of time, and for which you or your employer will have to pay. So grandfather rights are going away. Fast forward down the page a little bit. Let me see if I can find the right part. So, the Construction Leadership Council. I'm trying to think of something positive to say about the Construction Leadership Council, but I have nothing. This is a direct quote. The Construction Leadership Council said that this week's announcement should come as no surprise to anyone paying attention. It said back in 2015 that all construction industry card schemes would have to operate with nationally recognised qualifications, usually NVQs or SNVQs, by 2025. And it finishes that comment with 10 years warning is surely enough. on the face of it, 10 years is more than enough, I would say. Yeah, plenty of warning. What that doesn't take into account, however, and what nobody could have foreseen in 2015 when this was first mooted, was the fact that the decision would coincide, or the actual end of it all would coincide with a cost of living crisis. In 2015, nobody would have foreseen the way that construction demand has grown and grown and grown. I realise we're staring down the barrel of a recession at the moment, but it is just a week since the Construction Industry Training Board, you know, the people involved in training, declared that we would need an additional, more or less, 50,000 new people each year for the next 4 years if we are to meet demand. And this abolition of grandfather rights, according to the Construction Index story, is likely to impact 60,000 people. According to my mate Mick Norton, it's more like 74,000. And just to give you a flavour, let me roll on down here. Daniel Roche, director of Roche Civil Engineers, says easy enough for people in offices, not so easy for an industry full of operatives not directly employed who have to pay for their own training and loss of earnings, who won't take time off for an unpaid holiday, let alone unpaid training. There's lots and lots of that. Gordon Sharon, managing director of Kitchen Ventilation Systems, said why not let these grandfather rights expire when people leave the industry. And this is the one that really caught my eye. Ian Hughes, Managing Director at Health and Safety Consultant Green Dragon, said, I am letting my black card expire and I shan't be replacing it. How many of those will there be? How many will look at the additional time, the additional effort and the additional cost of switching to an MVQ or an SMVQ north of the border and just say, do you know what? Nah, that's it. That's me done. Construction, demolition, you can keep it. I'm going to go and do something where I don't actually have to pay to go to work. That's my thought for the day. We're back with Mick Norton. Strange that an irrational fear of technology exists in the sector where they spend hour upon hour using online media and communications. Technophobics are not necessarily old coffin dodgers like me. No, it's absolutely true. And the point that I'm sure I've mentioned this before, you know, the point I made to the lady in question that I was speaking to yesterday, you think about things like Didcot, power station, boiler house collapse, 4 guys unaccounted for. Had they been wearing wearable devices, they would not have been unaccounted for. We would know where they were. We might not be able to reach them, although I would still like to think we could have reached them in less than the 7 months that it actually took. But we would know exactly where they were. We would know they hadn't popped up the local cafe, they hadn't gone to the pub for lunch, they hadn't taken an afternoon off unannounced, that they were actually buried under 20,000 tonnes of twisted steel. Against that background, why would you not want to be not tracked, but trackable? Now, I think that's the distinction. As I say, an absolutely fascinating chat. Can't wait to bring that one to you. And it was such a turnaround in the conversation that what started out as a Tech Foresights show basically is going to be a standalone podcast, because it is a completely different thing. I learned a lot yesterday, and I'm expecting to learn an awful lot more when I get to speak to the lady in question in a bit more depth. Any more? Interested to know. I mean, I know Mick Norton is actually retired, and I know he describes himself as a coffin dodger there. Anybody else actually in the audience that are reliant upon grandfather rights to keep their card up to date? I'd love to hear from you if that is the case. Just don't. Well, does the switch to MVQ and SMVQ make you better at your job? No. Does it improve upon all of your experience that you've gained over the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years? No. Does it mean that you are more competent, the fact that you have another shiny new piece of plastic? No. What it does mean is that the training centres that are offering training and qualification to MVQ and SMVQ standards will be rubbing their hands together and phoning their bank manager and getting them to put the Lamborghini on standby. And if anybody would care to tell me otherwise, I'd love to hear from you. I think that will probably do us for today, because I'm literally mid-script on a video that addresses precisely this. I will leave you with this thought though. We touched on this yesterday, and I'm sure it's something we'll be touching again on Saturday when we gather again for the. Thank you very much indeed, Steve. That hits the nail on the head. Money making, that's exactly what it is. Nick Drew says, I recently renewed my CPCS card. To gain it, I had to go through the NVQ process. I'm bearing in mind that Nick, basically, I wouldn't say he operates machines for fun these days, because it is part of his job, but he's not a full-time operator. And therein lies the lunacy of it. He's had to basically go through the NVQ training process to prove that he can do, not only to do the thing that he's been doing for about 30 odd years, but the thing that he can prove he's been doing for 30 odd years, because there's dozens of bloody magazines and websites out there that show him doing precisely that. What more evidence do you possibly need? I was going somewhere with this, wasn't I? I can't remember where it was. I'll come back to it. As I say, I'm going to go and script this thing. I know what it was. We mentioned this yesterday, the fact that the industry, by and large, stood idly by while the government removed the red diesel subsidy and converted us all to white diesel, and ensured that right at the very height of the energy crisis that we were paying even more for the fuel to keep the industry running. We stood idly by and allowed that to happen. And I sense that here we are again. We are about to have grandfather rights removed from, depending who you ask, 60,000, 74,000 different people, all of whom, or some of whom, could be lost because they refuse to take part in what, as I agreed with, Steve Williamson described as a money-making scheme. And that's happening, at a time when people can probably ill afford the time and the expense to go and get the MVQ qualification, and at a time when the industry is not only in the midst of a skill shortage, an ongoing skill shortage, but at a time when the overarching body is in control of the UK industries, or the UK construction industries training, the CITB, has declared that we're going to need another 50,000 people per year for the next 4 years. We need another 200,000 people over 4 years, and the folks, I was going to say the fine folks, I'm not entirely sure they are that fine, the folks at CSCS and the folks at CLC, Construction Leadership Council, have decided, yes, we do need 200,000 more people, but why don't we jeopardise 74,000 people before we get there? Right hand and left hand, people, right hand and left hand. And Steve Williamson, no, I haven't. And I haven't found my John Deere hat either. I have, below my desk, there is a box, and I mean a big box, a proper big box, full of hats. I like a hat, as people probably gather by now. They're all around my wall, but I do wear them, not just this type, but I've got other hats as well. I thought it may have been stuffed in there. It's not there either. Lord alone knows where that's gone. But when I do, if anybody at Epiroc would like to replace my 8B10000 model, I promise not to lose it. But in the meantime, I will just keep searching, I think. Fred's room, yeah. Listen, Fred's room is it's inhospitable. Basically, it is as we refer to it, is the place where clothes go to die. It's like the elephant's graveyard of jeans. I daren't set foot in there. Truth be told, it's unlikely to be in Fred's room. Would I put it past Fred putting it on eBay? Maybe not. Thankfully, he's no longer in the chat, so hopefully he can't hear what I'm saying. Right, people, that's going to do us. That's 3/4 of an hour of your life you're never going to get back. I'm going to go and finish scripting this well-considered and balanced argument against the loss of grandfather rights. And I'm going to be back here again at 10 o'clock tomorrow for the final show of this type of the week. And then 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, we will convene once again for the long-awaited return of the Saturday Social. I sincerely hope you can join us. And please bring your bile and vitriol with you. Be as angry as you wish at the loss of grandfather rights. I think you are right to hold that view. I just wish the industry would, having been steamrolled over red diesel, I just wish that this would be the cause behind which the industry would rally and revolt against those within the ivory towers of the sector. Those making decisions for the working men and women of the industry who have never set a foot on site wouldn't know a hard hat if it were to jump up and give them a haircut. Gary Muirhead says, I went through this very thing this morning to renew my card. It cost me £200 plus to do an MVQ after 30 plus years of operating plant, to be told. I had to sit and tell someone my life story. Another money-making scam for CPCS. I try to be balanced in this show and in journalism. There is no balance to be had here. Working men and women on one hand, money-making exercise on the other. It really is as straightforward as that. And it just angers me so much that an industry that generally has so much to say for itself, when it's faced with something as potentially catastrophic as this, that we all just fall into line, tip our hats and do as we're told. Roll on the glorious days of the revolution, people. That's what I say. Go people, have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your grandfather rights while you still have them. I'll be back here again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Till then, look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. I wish you a fond farewell. See you on the morrow. All the very best.